Okay, welcome back to part 2 of the video. And just like we were doing at the end of part 1, you're going to find the vertex, axis of symmetry, intercepts, and all the information from each of these two quadratic functions. Neither one of them are in intercept or factored form yet, so you'll need to put them into factored form first. So go ahead and do this work on your own for number 7 and number 8. Pause your video when you've got both of them completed. Start the video back up to check your answers and explanation. For number 7, hopefully you noticed pretty quickly that it was a difference of two perfect squares, x squared and 2 squared. So I went ahead and factored it out. And then I set my factors equal to 0 to get my two solutions, or my zeros. And then I used my zeros to find my axis of symmetry, or the halfway point in between them. And then I used my axis of symmetry, which was the x value of my vertex. I plugged it back into my equation to get my vertex. Once I graphed it, my domain was all real numbers, and range is y is greater than -4. Then on number 8, I had to factor it. It was a fairly straightforward factoring. And then I put each of my factors equal to 0, and that gave me x is -5 and x is +3. Hopefully by now you've started noticing a pattern of putting them equal to 0 as to what happens with our zeros. Then I took my two solutions, found the middle point between them for my axis of symmetry, and then used my axis of symmetry to figure out my vertex. And then I just went ahead and graphed it. Notice, do pay attention that I went ahead and used a different scale in order to get this whole thing onto my graph. So on number 9 and 10, we're just going to practice doing everything that you know how to do to put these quadratic functions into standard form from whatever form they're in. So we're wanting to get them back into the ax squared plus bx plus c. And for number 9 and 10 both, it's going to require that you follow the PEMDAS. And for number 9, you're going to have to use your area model to square this. Combine your like terms, including the -1, and you'll have it in standard form. On number 10, you'll have to go ahead and, again, use your area model to square this. To square this, because that's what PEMDAS says. Once you've squared this, then you'll have to either use your area model or distribute to multiply by the -3, and then finally you'll combine your like terms with a +4. So I want you to do both of these. Remember, this is a puzzle. It's one little step at a time, and just keep working at it until you get all the way through both of them, and then start your video back up to check your answers. Okay, so on number 9, I went ahead and squared my x plus 3 using my area model. Then I went ahead and brought down my -1. That gave me my like terms. When I combined them, there was my answer. And then on number 10, I had to do, I think, just one more step. I squared my x plus 2, and that gave me this information down here in red. I went ahead and brought down my multiply times -3 and my add +4. Then I used my area model to go ahead and multiply this out, and that gave me the stuff in purple, and I brought down my +4 and finally combined my like terms at the end and gave me my answer. Now on number 11, 12, 13, I think 14 and 15, we're going to just write some equations that match the situation that they've given us. I'm going to have you do number 11, 12, and 13 on your own and check back for the answers just to make sure you're on the right track. and get some of the discussion. Before you do that, though, before you pause your video, a couple of things I want you to think about. If you know your x-intercepts are -4 and +7, if you think about the pattern of what we've been doing in standard form when we were setting things equal to 0, think about what was happening to the x's. I think I mentioned it at the beginning of this video. So if we're thinking about that, they were going to just the opposite, the x lies. So just putting number 11 in factored form to get you started, we're going to do y equals x opposite of -4 is +4, and x opposite of +7 is -7. That's going to get you started, and now that it's in factored form, you'll have to put it into standard form. That'll help you for number 11 and number 12. I do want you to assume on both of those that our a value is 1. Don't put any other weird a values in there. Then on number 13 as well, they've given you, even though it doesn't look like it, they've given you your x-intercepts. They've just put it in ordered pair form instead of x equals form. So go ahead and pause your video to do all 3 of these and then check back for the explanation. Okay, so for all 3 of these, they gave us the intercepts, and so I was able to put them in to intercept form. And then once I had it in intercept form, I went ahead and simplified it or multiplied it out to get us to standard form. So just check your answers on all 3 of these. Now on number 14 and 15, in 14 and 15, they didn't give us intercepts, so we can't put it into intercept form first. What they did give us, though, is a vertex, so we can put it in our vertex form. So on 14, all they gave us was vertex, so we'll assume that our a value is 1. On number 15, they gave us the vertex and a point it passes through, so we'll have to use that point as an x comma y to go ahead and get our full thing. So this one will be very interesting to see how you do. So what we're going to do first, I'm just going to have you do number 14, pause your video and do 14, and then check back for the explanation. Okay, so just checking your math, number 14 was very similar to what we did in number 9 and number 10. Now in number 15, because they gave us a point that it's passing through, we can't just assume our a value is going to be a 1. So the first thing we have to find is our a value. So because they gave us the vertex, we're going to put it in vertex form, but we're also going to substitute in our x and our y values. So we're going to have our y is 0, 0 equals, and then we don't know what the a is. So a is what we're looking for. And then we have the next thing is our x, so we're going to put in our x is 7, so 7 minus our x, or our h value, our h and our k, so 7 minus 5 squared, so 7 minus 5 squared plus k, and our k is -2, so plus -2 is -2. So that gets you started. I've plugged it in for you. What I want you to do is go ahead, finish solving for the a value, and then plug the whole thing back into your vertex form again using the a value and solve it down to standard. So a lot of steps. Pause your video while you do the work and then start it back up to check your answer. All set. Okay, so there were a lot of steps in the process just to unwind and untwist this puzzle. But after we got that our a equaled 1/2, then we just did exactly like we did in number 10 above and got it all the way solved down to our standard form. So just check your numbers. On number 16, they've been kind enough to give us our intercepts, so we can use our intercept form. But again, we cannot assume that a equals 1 because they gave us a specific point. So I want you to pause your video and go ahead and work your way through this one Using your intercept form, find the a and get it all the way to standard form, then check back for the answer. Okay, once you knew what you were doing, got it plugged in, it was a very straightforward solving equation, and you should have come up with the answer, negative 3x squared plus 21x.